The sky burned in a deep red color, and smoke covered the broken land. Metal pieces and destroyed ships were scattered everywhere. The war had ended only hours ago, but the planet still felt alive with danger. Cold wind moved slowly across the empty battlefield, carrying the smell of fire and loss. Far from the main crash sites, a lone human walked carefully between the ruins. His name was Ethan, a simple engineer, not a soldier. He was not here to fight. He was here to collect scrap and survive another day. His suit was old and damaged, and his helmet had small cracks. Every step he took was slow and careful. Because danger could still be hiding anywhere, Ethan stopped suddenly. He heard something. A soft sound, almost like a cry. He looked around, his eyes sharp and alert. At first, he thought it was just the wind, but then he heard it again, weak and broken. He followed the sound. Moving behind a large piece of fallen metal. There, hidden in the shadows, he saw something small. It was an alien child. The child was curled up, shaking. Her skin had a faint blue glow, now covered with dust and blood. One of her limbs was badly damaged, almost gone. She tried to move but failed, falling back with pain. Ethan froze. Aliens were the enemy. They were the reason this planet was destroyed. Helping one could mean death. If anyone found out, he would be seen as a traitor. The child looked at him with wide, terrified eyes. She tried to crawl away, but her body was too weak. Her breathing was fast and uneven. She thought he would kill her. For a moment, Ethan said nothing. His mind was filled with fear and confusion. He could walk away right now and forget this ever happened. No one would know. No one would care. But something stopped him. Something deep inside. A memory he could not ignore. A past filled with regret. Slowly, Ethan removed his helmet. The air was harsh, but he ignored it. He wanted the child to see his face. To see that he was not a monster. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. The child did not understand his words, but she saw his eyes. She saw something different. Something kind. Still, she was afraid. Her small body moved back slightly. Her injured limb dragged uselessly behind her. Pain filled her face. Ethan stepped closer, slowly, carefully. He raised his hands to show he had no weapons. His heart was beating fast. This was dangerous, very dangerous. Another distant explosion echoed across the land. The ground trembled slightly. Time was running out. Ethan looked at the child again. She was losing strength quickly. If he did nothing, she would not survive. He knelt beside her. The child tried to resist, but she was too weak. Her eyes began to close. "Stay with me," Ethan whispered. For a brief second, their eyes met. A silent connection formed between two enemies, two beings from different worlds. Then the child collapsed completely. Ethan caught her just before she hit the ground. Her body was light, fragile. Her breathing was fading. His hands trembled. This was the moment, the choice that could change everything. Far above, a faint sound of ships entering the atmosphere could be heard. Something was coming, something big. Ethan looked up at the sky, then back at the child in his arms. If he stayed, he risked everything. If he left, she would die. There was no time left to think. Ethan stood up, holding the child close. His decision was made, and somewhere in the sky, unseen by him, a signal had already begun. A signal that would bring someone powerful, someone unstoppable. And when they arrived, nothing would ever be the same. Ethan moved fast across the broken land, holding the small alien child close to his chest. The wind howled around him, and the ground shook from distant explosions. He kept his head low, his eyes searching for danger. Every step felt heavier, not just because of the child, but because of the choice he had made. Helping her was a risk he could not undo. If human patrols saw him, they would not ask questions. If alien scouts found him, they would not show mercy. He was alone between two enemies, carrying something both sides would fight for. The child in his arms was very still. Her breathing was weak, almost fading. A faint blue glow came from her skin, but it flickered like a dying light. Ethan tightened his grip slightly, trying to keep her warm. "Stay alive," he whispered, more to himself than to her. After several long minutes, he finally reached his shelter. It was hidden under the remains of a crashed cargo ship. From the outside, it looked like nothing but metal debris. But inside, Ethan had built a small workshop. He stepped in quickly and sealed the entrance behind him. The noise of the outside world became quiet. Only the soft hum of old machines filled the space. Ethan placed the child gently on a metal table. Bright white light turned on above her. For the first time, he could see the full damage. Her limb was gone from the joint, not a clean cut, but torn and burned. Strange patterns under her skin showed complex alien biology. This was not something simple to fix. Ethan took a deep breath. "This is bad," he said quietly. He moved quickly, opening old data screens and scanning tools. A small device hovered over the child, reading her body signals. Unknown symbols filled the screen. He understood only parts of it. Her heart rate was unstable, energy levels dropping fast. Without help, she would not last long. Ethan stepped back, running his hands through his hair. His mind raced with thoughts. This was impossible. He was a human engineer, not an alien doctor. He had no proper tools, no perfect knowledge, only scraps and broken tech. He looked at the child again. Her small face was calm now, almost too calm, like she had already given up. "Why did I do this?" he whispered. For a moment, he thought about stopping, about ending this before it got worse. He could still walk away, say it was too late. But then a memory hit him hard. A small room, long ago, a human child, weak and sick. Someone he could not save. Ethan closed his eyes tightly. "No, not again," he said. He walked back to the table, his expression now serious. "I won't fail this time." He turned on more machines. Old robotic arms came to life, moving slowly. Screens lit up with data, calculations, and designs. "If I can't heal it," he said softly, "I will build it." He opened a storage box filled with metal parts, wires, and circuits, different pieces from different machines. Nothing perfect, but maybe enough. He began sketching a design on a screen. A mechanical limb, simple but strong. It had to match her body, connect to her nerves, respond to her thoughts. Every second mattered. He worked faster than ever before. His hands moved with skill and urgency. Hours passed without him noticing. The outside world did not matter anymore. Only this small life on the table mattered. At one point, the child moved slightly. A soft sound escaped her lips. Ethan stopped and looked at her. Her eyes opened just a little. She looked confused, scared, her vision blurry. Ethan slowly stepped closer. "It's okay," he said gently. She did not understand his words, but she did not try to move away this time. Her eyes stayed on him for a few seconds. Then she whispered something in a weak voice. "Lyra." Ethan leaned closer. "Lyra?" Her eyes closed again, but her face was calmer. Ethan nodded slowly. "Okay, Lyra. Just hold on." He turned back to his work with more focus than before. Now she was not just a stranger. She had a name. And that made everything more real. The first version of the limb was ready. It looked rough, made from mixed parts, but it was functional. Ethan held it in his hands, looking at it carefully. "This has to work," he said quietly, but deep inside, he knew the truth. If he made even one mistake, Lyra would not survive the next step. Ethan stood still for a long moment, holding the unfinished mechanical limb in his hands. Ethan stood still for a long moment, holding the unfinished mechanical limb in his hands. The soft hum of machines filled the small workshop, but his mind was louder than anything around him. One wrong move, and everything would end. Not just his work, but Lyra's life. He slowly placed the limb on the table beside her. It looked rough and imperfect, made from broken human technology. It was never designed for alien biology, but it was the only chance she had. Ethan took a deep breath and turned back to his tools. "This is not enough," he said quietly. "If it fails, she dies." He began working again. Faster but more careful this time. He adjusted the joints, made the connections smoother. He added a small energy core to power the movement. Thin wires extended from the limb like veins. Ready to connect. On the screen, Lyra's body data kept changing. Her condition was getting worse. Her energy levels were falling faster now. Time was running out. Ethan wiped the sweat from his face. "Come on. Think," he whispered. He opened old files, searching for anything useful. alien anatomy records from past battles. Most of it was incomplete, but one file caught his attention. It showed a similar species structure. Not exact, but close enough. The nerve system was complex, but it had patterns. Patterns he could try to match. Ethan's eyes focused sharply. This might work. He quickly adjusted the design again, aligning the limb's connectors with the nerve points shown in the data. It was risky, very risky, but there was no safer option. Behind him, Lyra moved slightly. A soft, painful breath escaped her lips. Ethan turned immediately. Lyra? Her eyes opened slowly. This time she was more aware. She looked around in confusion. Then her eyes stopped on Ethan. Fear appeared for a second, but it was weaker than before. Ethan stepped closer, slowly. It's okay, he said in a calm voice. Lyra tried to speak, but her voice was too weak. Instead, she looked down at her missing limb. Her expression changed, sadness and pain. Ethan followed her gaze. He picked up the mechanical limb and showed it to her. I'm going to fix this, he said gently. She did not understand the words, but she watched his face carefully, trying to understand his intention. Ethan placed the limb back on the table. Then he pointed to her, then to the limb. Simple gestures. Lyra blinked slowly. Her eyes showed confusion, then a small spark of hope. She made a weak sound, almost like a question. Ethan nodded. Yes, I will help you. For a brief moment, silence filled the room. But this silence felt different, not full of fear, but something softer, trust. Lyra slowly closed her eyes again, not from weakness this time, but from acceptance. Ethan looked at her, surprised. She trusts me, he said quietly. That made the pressure even heavier. He returned to his work, more focused than ever before. Every wire had to be perfect. Every connection had to be precise. He tested the limb's movement. The fingers moved slowly, then faster. The joints responded smoothly. Good. Good, he whispered. But one problem remained, the connection to her nervous system. If her body rejected it, if the signals did not match, the result could be deadly. Ethan looked at the limb, then at Lyra. This is the hardest part. He prepared the connection tools, small devices designed for delicate work, not made for aliens, but close enough. The room grew quiet again. Only the sound of Lyra's weak breathing could be heard. Ethan positioned the limb carefully near her injured side. His hands were steady, but his heart was not. Just hold on a little longer, he said softly. He activated the system. The limb's core began to glow faintly. A low sound filled the room, energy flowing through the wires. Ethan paused for a second. This was it. No more time to wait. He looked at Lyra one last time. Her face was calm, as if she was ready. Ethan took a deep breath. Then he began the connection. The wires touched her skin. A sudden reaction moved through her body. Her eyes opened wide. A sharp cry escaped her lips. The machines around them started beeping faster. Ethan's eyes locked on the data screen. Signals rising, falling, unstable. Come on. Come on, he whispered. Lyra's body tensed. Her breathing became fast and uneven. The connection was not stable yet. Ethan adjusted the controls quickly, trying to match the signals. Every second felt like a lifetime. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. The machine stopped beeping. The light on the limb stayed steady. Ethan froze, his heart dropping. No. No. He looked at Lyra. She was completely still, and for one terrifying moment, Ethan thought he had just lost her. The soft hum of machines filled the small workshop, but his mind was louder than anything around him. One wrong move, and everything would end. Not just his work, but Lyra's life. He slowly placed the limb on the table beside her. It looked rough and imperfect. Made from broken human technology, it was never designed for alien biology, but it was the only chance she had. Ethan took a deep breath and turned back to his tools. This is not enough, he said quietly. If it fails, she dies. He began working again, faster but more careful this time. He adjusted the joints, made the connection smoother. He added a small energy core to power the movement. Thin wires extended from the limb like veins, ready to connect on the screen. Lyra's body data kept changing. Her condition was getting worse. Her energy levels were falling faster now. Time was running out. Ethan wiped the sweat from his face. Come on. Think, he whispered. He opened old files, searching for anything useful. Alien anatomy records from past battles. Most of it was incomplete. But one file caught his attention. It showed a similar species structure. Not exact, but close enough. The nerve system was complex, but it had patterns. Patterns he could try to match. Ethan's eyes focused sharply. This might work. He quickly adjusted the design again, aligning the limb's connectors with the nerve points shown in the data. It was risky, very risky, but there was no safer option. Behind him, Lyra moved slightly. A soft, painful breath escaped her lips. Ethan turned immediately. Lyra? Her eyes opened slowly. This time she was more aware. She looked around in confusion. Then her eyes stopped on Ethan. Fear appeared for a second, but it was weaker than before. Ethan stepped closer, slowly. "It's okay," he said in a calm voice. Lyra tried to speak, but her voice was too weak. Instead, she looked down at her missing limb. Her expression changed. Sadness and pain. Ethan followed her gaze. He picked up the mechanical limb and showed it to her. "I'm going to fix this," he said gently. She did not understand the words, but she watched his face carefully, trying to understand his intention. Ethan placed the limb back on the table. Then he pointed to her, then to the limb. Simple gestures. Lyra blinked slowly. Her eyes showed confusion, then a small spark of hope. She made a weak sound, almost like a question. Ethan nodded. "Yes, I will help you." For a brief moment, silence filled the room. But this silence felt different. Not full of fear, but something softer, trust. Lyra slowly closed her eyes again, not from weakness this time, but from acceptance. Ethan looked at her, surprised. "She trusts me," he said quietly. That made the pressure even heavier. He returned to his work, more focused than ever before. Every wire had to be perfect. Every connection had to be precise. He tested the limb's movement. The fingers moved slowly, then faster. The joints responded smoothly. "Good. Good," he whispered. But one problem remained. The connection to her nervous system. If her body rejected it, if the signals did not match, the result could be deadly. Ethan looked at the limb, then at Lyra. "This is the hardest part." He prepared the connection tools. Small devices designed for delicate work. Not made for aliens, but close enough. The room grew quiet again. Only the sound of Lyra's weak breathing could be heard. Ethan positioned the limb carefully near her injured side. His hands were steady, but his heart was not. "Just hold on a little longer," he said softly. He activated the system. The limb's core began to glow faintly. A low sound filled the room, energy flowing through the wires. Ethan paused for a second. This was it. No more time to wait. He looked at Lyra one last time. Her face was calm, as if she was ready. Ethan took a deep breath. Then he began the connection. The wires touched her skin. A sudden reaction moved through her body. Her eyes opened wide. A sharp cry escaped her lips. The machines around them started beeping faster. Ethan's eyes locked on the data screen. Signals rising, falling, unstable. "Come on. Come on," he whispered. Lyra's body tensed. Her breathing became fast and uneven. The connection was not stable yet. Ethan adjusted the controls quickly, trying to match the signals. Every second felt like a lifetime. Then suddenly, everything went quiet. The machine stopped beeping. The light on the limb stayed steady. Ethan froze, his heart dropping. No. No. He looked at Lyra. She was completely still. And for one terrifying moment, Ethan thought he had just lost her. For a long second, nothing moved. The machines were silent. The air felt heavy. Ethan's heart pounded loudly in his chest. His eyes were fixed on Lyra's still body. "No. Please," he whispered. His hands shook as he reached toward her. He checked her breathing, searching for any sign of life. There was nothing, only stillness. A deep fear filled his chest. Had he gone too far? Had he made the wrong choice? "Lyra, wake up," he said softly. The room felt colder now. The small light above the table flickered slightly. Everything felt like it was fading away. Then, a small twitch. Ethan froze. His eyes widened. "Wait." He leaned closer, watching carefully. Another small movement. This time from the mechanical limb. One of the fingers moved slightly, slow. Weak, but real. Ethan held his breath. Come on. Suddenly, Lyra gasped. A sharp breath filled her lungs. Her body jerked slightly. The machines came back to life. Soft beeping sounds returned. Ethan quickly checked the readings. Her heart rate was rising again. Her energy levels were stabilizing. It worked. He whispered. He looked back at her face. Her eyes slowly opened, confused. Weak, but alive, for a moment, she just stared at the ceiling, as if trying to understand what had happened. Then she turned her head slightly. Her eyes met Ethan's. There was no fear this time, only confusion. And something else, hope. Ethan gave a small, tired smile. You're okay, he said gently. Lyra blinked slowly. Her breathing was still uneven, but she was alive. Then something caught her attention. She looked down. Her new limb rested beside her body. Still connected, still glowing faintly, she stared at it. Her expression changed slowly. Curiosity. She tried to move. At first nothing happened. Ethan watched closely. Take it slow, he said. Lyra focused. Her small face serious now then. A slight movement. The fingers of the mechanical limb moved again. More clearly this time. Lyra's eyes widened. She tried again. The hand opened, then closed. It was working. Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. You did it, he said softly. Lyra slowly lifted the limb. Still unsure, still learning. She touched the metal surface with her other hand, feeling it, understanding it. Then she looked at Ethan. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, slowly, a small smile appeared on her face. It was weak, but real. Ethan smiled back. That single moment made everything worth it. But peace did not last long. A loud sound echoed from outside, deep and powerful. Ethan's smile faded instantly. He turned toward the entrance. That's not good, he said quietly. The ground trembled slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling. Another sound followed. This time louder, closer engines. Ethan rushed to a small screen near the wall. He activated an external camera. The image appeared. Dark shapes in the sky, ships. Large alien ships were entering the atmosphere. Their size blocked the red sky. Their presence felt heavy and dangerous. Ethan stepped back slowly. They found us. Behind him, Lyra made a small sound. He turned quickly. She was looking at the screen. Her expression had changed. Not fear, recognition. Ethan noticed it immediately. You know them? He asked. Lyra slowly sat up. Her movements were still weak, but stronger than before. She looked at the ships again, her eyes filled with emotion. Then she raised her new limb slightly. A faint light pulsed from it. Ethan frowned. What are you doing? The light grew brighter. The limb was reacting. Then a signal appeared on Ethan's screen. An outgoing transmission. His eyes widened. No, wait. But it was too late. The signal had already been sent. Outside, one of the massive ships began to descend, slowly, directly toward their location. The ground shook harder now. The sound of engines roared like thunder. Ethan looked back at Lyra, his voice tense. What did you call? Lyra looked at him, her expression calm but serious. Then she whispered one word, Mother. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Above them, the largest ship opened. A bright light shining down toward the ground. Something important was arriving. Something powerful, and deep inside, Ethan knew this moment would decide everything. The ground shook harder with every passing second. Dust fell from the ceiling in thin lines. The loud roar of engines filled the air. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, staring at the screen. The massive alien ship was now directly above them. Its shadow covered everything, blocking the red sky completely. Bright blue lights moved along its surface like flowing energy. It was not just any ship, it was something far more powerful. Ethan slowly turned toward Lyra. You called them, he said in a low voice. Lyra sat on the table, her small body still weak, but her eyes were strong now. Focused, she nodded slowly. Ethan ran his hand over his face. This is bad. This is really bad. Outside, smaller ships began landing around the area. Heavy footsteps echoed through the broken land. Alien soldiers were arriving. Ethan quickly moved around the room. He started shutting down systems, hiding screens. He knew if they found this place, they would see everything. "Can you stand?" he asked, looking at Lyra. Lyra looked down at her new limb. She moved it slowly, testing it again. Then she pushed herself off the table. For a second, she almost fell, but she caught herself. The mechanical limb held her weight. Ethan stepped forward quickly, ready to help, but she steadied herself. "Careful," he said. Lyra took one step, then another, slow but strong. Each movement better than the last. Ethan watched in surprise. "She's learning fast," he whispered. But there was no time to feel proud. A loud metallic sound came from outside. Something heavy landed near the entrance. Ethan froze. "They're here." He looked around quickly. There was no escape path, no hidden tunnel, nowhere to run. He turned back to Lyra. "Listen, you need to hide." Lyra shook her head slowly, her expression serious. Ethan frowned. "They will kill me if they see me with you." Lyra stepped closer to him. Her small hand touched his arm. Ethan stopped, surprised by the gesture. Her eyes met his, calm. "Not afraid." Then she gently pulled his hand, as if telling him to stay. Ethan hesitated. Everything in his mind told him to run, but something in her eyes made him stop. Outside, footsteps grew louder, heavy and organized. Alien soldiers surrounded the area. A bright light suddenly cut through the entrance, blinding for a moment. Then the metal barrier at the entrance was forced open. It crashed to the ground with a loud sound. Ethan stepped in front of Lyra without thinking, his body tense, ready for anything. Several alien soldiers entered the workshop. Their armor was dark and advanced, weapons raised, glowing with energy. They stopped when they saw Ethan. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then all weapons aimed directly at him. Ethan raised his hand slowly. "I'm not a threat," he said. He knew they could not understand his words, but it was instinct. One soldier stepped forward, its helmet glowing faintly, scanning him. Another soldier moved its weapon closer, ready to fire. Ethan did not move. His heart was racing. This was it. This was how it ended. Behind him, Lyra stepped forward. "Wait," Ethan whispered, trying to stop her, but she walked past him. Standing between him and the soldiers reacted instantly. Their weapons shifted toward her, but then they stopped. Their posture changed suddenly, from attack to confusion. One of them lowered its weapon slowly. Lyra stood straight, her small figure now strong, her new limb glowing softly. She made a sound, a series of soft tones, a language Ethan could not understand. The soldiers froze completely. Then one by one, they lowered their weapons. Ethan blinked in shock. "What?" The lead soldier stepped forward, then did something unexpected. It lowered its head slightly. "Respect." Ethan's eyes widened. Lyra turned her head slightly, looking back at him, her expression calm. Then she spoke again in her language. The soldiers stepped aside, creating a clear path. Ethan looked toward the entrance, bright light still pouring in from outside. A deep, powerful sound echoed again. Different from before, he felt it more than heard it. Like the air itself was reacting, something else was arriving. Something far more important than soldiers. The ground trembled once more. But this time, everything outside became quiet after it. No movement, no sound. Even the soldiers stood completely still, waiting. Ethan swallowed slowly, his voice barely a whisper. "Who is coming?" Lyra looked toward the entrance, her eyes filled with emotion. Then she said softly, "Mother." A shadow appeared at the entrance, tall, powerful, and surrounded by light. Ethan felt his breath stop, because in that moment, he understood one terrifying truth. He had not just saved an alien child. He had just changed the fate of an entire war. The light at the entrance grew brighter. For a moment, Ethan could see nothing but white. The soldiers stood perfectly still, their heads lowered. The air itself felt heavy, like something powerful had entered the room. Then slowly, the light faded just enough. A figure stepped inside. She was tall and calm, her presence silent but overwhelming. Her armor was unlike anything had ever seen, smooth and glowing with soft energy. Long shapes flowed behind her like living light. Every step she took felt controlled, powerful, absolute. Ethan's chest tightened. He did not need anyone to tell him who she was. The Queen, the ruler of the alien forces, the one humans feared the most. Stories said she never showed weakness, never hesitated. Where she went, destruction followed, and now she was here. Ethan forced himself to stay still. His hands slowly lowered, but he did not move. Running was impossible. Fighting was useless. The Queen stopped a few steps inside the workshop. Her glowing eyes moved across the room, scanning everything, the broken machines, the scattered tools. Then her gaze stopped on Lyra. For a brief second, the powerful Queen did not move. Then something changed. Her body shifted slightly. The strong, cold presence softened. Lyra. Her voice was low, but filled with emotion. Lyra stepped forward immediately, her small face lighting up. "Mother," she said softly. Before Ethan could react, Lyra ran toward her. Her steps were still new and uneven, but she did not stop. The Queen moved quickly, faster than Ethan expected. She reached Lyra and pulled her close, holding her tightly. For a moment, everything else disappeared. No soldiers, no war, no fear. Just a mother and her child. Ethan stood frozen, watching in silence. This was not what he expected. The Queen closed her eyes briefly. Her hand gently touched Lyra's head. "You are safe," she whispered. Lyra held on to her. "I am okay," she replied. The Queen slowly pulled back. Her hands moved across Lyra's body, checking her carefully. Her expression changed as she noticed the injury. Then her eyes fell on the mechanical limb. She froze. Her fingers slowly touched the metal surface. Feeling its shape, its structure, her expression became unreadable. A mix of shock, confusion, and something deeper. The room fell silent again. Even the soldiers did not move. Ethan felt his heart beating faster. This was the moment. She would understand, or she would destroy him. The Queen looked at Lyra again, then back at the limb. "Who did this?" she asked quietly. Lyra turned her head slowly. Her eyes moved toward Ethan. She raised her small hand and pointed at him. Silence. All eyes turned to Ethan. The soldiers reacted instantly. Weapons raised again, aiming directly at him. Ethan did not move. He stood there, calm but ready. If this was the end, he would face it. The Queen slowly turned her head toward him. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. Ethan felt something deep and powerful in that gaze. Not just anger, but intelligence. She studied him carefully. "A human," she said softly. There was no fear in her voice, only curiosity. And tension. She took one slow step toward him. The soldiers tightened their grip on their weapons. Waiting for her command, Ethan stood his ground, his voice quiet but steady. "She was going to die," he said. "I just helped." He knew she might not understand his words, but he spoke anyway. The Queen stopped in front of him, only a few steps away now. She looked at him for a long moment. Then her eyes moved slightly, looking past him at the tools, the machines, the work he had done. She understood. Slowly, her gaze returned to him, and then something unexpected happened. Her expression changed. The cold power in her face softened. Her eyes lowered slightly. And then, a single tear formed. Ethan blinked in shock. The Queen was crying. The soldiers looked confused. This was something they had never seen before. The Queen raised her hand slowly. For a moment, Ethan thought it was over, that she would strike him down, but instead, she placed her hand gently over her heart. Then, she lowered herself, kneeling in front of him. The entire room froze. The soldiers stepped back in shock, their weapons lowering without command. Ethan could not move. His mind could not understand what he was seeing. The most powerful being in this war was kneeling before him. "For saving my child," she said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "Thank you." The room stayed completely silent after the Queen's words. No one moved, no one spoke. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. Ethan stood frozen, his mind unable to understand what was happening. The most powerful being in this war was still kneeling in front of him, her head slightly lowered, her voice calm but filled with real emotion. "For saving my child." "Thank you," she repeated softly. Ethan swallowed slowly. This is not right. he said in a low voice. "You don't need to do this." The queen lifted her gaze. Her glowing eyes met his again. "This is not weakness," she said. "This is truth." Behind her, the soldiers stood in complete shock. Some looked confused, others unsure what to do. They had never seen their queen like this before. Lyra stepped closer, standing beside her mother. Her small hand gently touched the queen's shoulder. "He helped me," Lyra said softly. "He did not see me as an enemy." The queen slowly stood up, her movements calm and controlled again. But something had changed in her presence. The cold distance was gone, replaced with something warmer. She turned to face her soldiers, her voice now strong and clear. "Lower your weapons," she commanded. Every weapon dropped instantly. No one questioned her order. Ethan let out a slow breath. For the first time since they arrived, he felt a small sense of relief. But he knew this moment was bigger than just survival. The queen turned back to him. "You risked your life for her," she said. "Why?" Ethan looked at Lyra, then back at the queen. "She was just a child," he replied simply. That was enough. The queen studied his face carefully, as if trying to understand something deeper. "For many cycles we believed humans were cruel," she said slowly. "We believed you only destroy." Ethan gave a small, tired smile. "Some do," he said. "But not all." Lyra stepped forward again. She lifted her new limbs slightly. The soft glow reflected in her eyes. "This is from him," she said. "He made it for me." The queen looked at the limb once more, her expression filled with quiet respect. "A creation born from compassion," she said softly. Then she made another unexpected move. She stepped closer to Ethan. "Not as a ruler, but as someone equal. The war between our people has taken too much," she said. "Too many lives, too much pain." Ethan listened silently. The queen continued. "But today, one human changed something." She raised her hand slightly, and outside, the massive ships responded. Their engines slowly powered down. The sound of war faded. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "You're stopping it?" The queen nodded. "For now." "Yes." The soldiers looked at each other, surprised but obedient. "This act cannot be ignored," she said. "If peace is possible, it must begin somewhere." Ethan looked around, still unsure if this was real. "You're trusting me?" he asked. "I am trusting what you did," the queen replied. Lyra smiled softly. Then she walked up to Ethan and gently held his hand. The simple gesture said more than words. Ethan looked down at her, a small smile forming on his face. "Take care of it," he said, pointing to her limb. Lyra nodded. "I will." The queen watched them both. Then she spoke again. "You will not be harmed," she said to Ethan. "From this moment, you are under my protection." Ethan let out a quiet breath. That was more than he expected. The queen turned toward the exit, the bright light still waiting outside. But before leaving, she stopped. She looked back one last time. "Our worlds may still be divided," she said, "but today we saw another path." Then she walked out. The soldiers followed in silence. The heavy presence slowly disappeared. The ships outside began to rise again. But this time, not with fear, not with war, but with something new, hope. Ethan stood alone in his workshop, the silence returning slowly. He looked at his hands, still slightly shaking. Everything had changed, from a broken battlefield to a moment that could reshape the galaxy. Lyra's small voice echoed in his mind. Her trust, her smile. Ethan looked toward the sky, now visible again through the broken metal. "Maybe this is how it starts," he said quietly. "Not with power, not with war, but with one simple act of kindness, and somewhere far above, a queen carried that story across the stars. A story about a human who chose to help, and in doing so, changed the fate of everything."